white silence. The first warning did not arrive as a sound, but as a strange and sudden calm. Elias Northway had worked in the Arctic for almost a decade. He had learned to read the land in small signs, the movement of clouds, the shape of snowdrifts, the tone of the wind. When everything went quiet, he knew it was time to be careful. Silence in the Arctic was never empty. It was watchful. He stood near a jagged ridge of ice and looked out across the frozen plain. The sky was a faded blue, stretching endlessly above the snow. The research station was far behind him now, a distant point of metal and antennas buried in white. He had volunteered to recover a weather sensor that had stopped sending data. It should have been a simple walk, but unease followed him like a shadow. As he moved forward, something caught his eye. Tracks. They were wide and deep, pressing heavily into the snow. Each step showed strength and weight. Elias knelt and examined them closely. The edges were still sharp. The wind had not touched them yet. The bear could not be far. His pulse quickened, but he forced himself to remain calm. Panic would only make things worse. Polar bears were not like other animals. They did not flee from humans. In this frozen world, they were the true masters. Elias rose slowly and began to move backward, keeping his eyes on the open land ahead. He adjusted the strap of his rifle and listened. Then he heard it. A slow, heavy breath, carried gently across the ice. He turned. The polar bear stood on a low rise behind him, no more than 30 meters away. It was enormous, its body thick with muscle and fat. Its fur reflected the pale light, a mix of white, gold, and shadow. Its eyes were dark and steady, filled not with rage, but with attention. Elias lifted his arms and shouted, trying to appear larger than he was. His voice echoed weakly in the open space. The bear did not retreat. Instead, it stepped closer, its massive paws sinking into the snow with quiet power. Elias fired a warning shot into the air. The sound cracked sharply, breaking the silence. For a brief moment, the bear stopped. Then it lowered its head and charged. The speed shocked him. The bear crossed the distance in seconds, its body moving with terrifying control. Elias fired again, aiming carefully despite his fear. The bullet struck the bear's shoulder. Blood spread across its fur, bright and unnatural against the white. But the bear did not slow. It slammed into Elias, knocking him to the ground. The rifle flew from his hands. Claws tore through his jacket and into his flesh. Pain surged through him, sharp and overwhelming. The bear's weight pressed the air from his lungs. Its jaws snapped near his face. Elias smelled its breath, warm and raw, and felt its strength as it pinned him to the ice. For a moment, he believed he would die there. Another small story lost in the Arctic. Then instinct took over. His hand found the flare gun attached to his belt. His fingers were stiff with cold and shaking with fear, but he held on. As the bear roared, Elias pressed the flare gun against its neck and fired. The flare burst with violent light and heat. Red flames cut through the white world. The bear screamed and recoiled, confused by the sudden fire. It staggered backward, shaking its head, then turned and fled across the ice, leaving dark drops of blood behind it. Elias lay motionless, gasping for breath. Slowly, the pain returned in waves. The cold crept into his wounds, sharp and unforgiving. Blood soaked into the snow beneath him, marking his place in the endless white. He forced himself to stay awake, knowing that sleep could be final. Time passed strangely. Minutes felt like hours. At last, a distant sound reached him, the low hum of an engine. Searchlights swept across the ice, cutting through the fading daylight. When they found him, relief washed over his face as rescuers rushed to his side. Back at the station, wrapped in blankets and treated for his injuries, Elias stared at the ceiling and replayed the encounter again and again. He felt no pride, no sense of victory, only respect and fear. The Arctic had reminded him of a simple truth. Humans did not control this land. They survived in it only by luck, skill, and humility. Far away, beyond the reach of lights and machines, the wounded polar bear continued its journey across the ice, carrying its own memory of the day the silence was broken.